Hello, good evening. Hello.
Good evening,
Hello.
madam.
Yeah, good evening. Remember, being happy doesn't mean you have it all. It simply means you're thankful for you all have, for all you have. Okay, nice quote. Right. Now, how many are now? The numbers are there, but there are about 20, no? In our class, how many are there, Putta?
There are about 35, ma'am.
So here it's only 11, no? Yeah, they are joining. Mhm. Okay. Now, did I give you anybody kind of 1 minute talk or anything? Did I ask you to do? Did I ask you to do any 1 minute talk or anything?
No, madam.
No, ma'am.
No, right. Okay. Now, um, we have actually done approaches, am I right? And some methods. And last time we did this uh, what is the last thing did we do? Did we discuss this jigsaw activities?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yeah,
Flip
flipped
method,
method.
then
Ah,
jigsaw.
right. The jigsaw activities. So today we can actually start our discussion on some techniques that the teachers use. And I showed you the relationship, right? Approaches and then methods and then techniques. So they are actually interconnected based on the approaches that you will select methods, and based on the methods that you will actually use techniques in the at the implementation level. So what are some classroom techniques? That's what we are going to look at. Okay. Um, you can take down the techniques that we are going to discuss today. First, I will talk to you about questioning as a technique. What is the first one? Questioning as a
Questioning.
technique. Okay. Then I will actually talk to you about uh, brainstorming as a technique. Brainstorming as a technique. Then we can talk about grouping as a technique. Teachers use grouping as a technique. Okay. Uh, Apart from that, we can actually use storytelling as a technique. And there are so many techniques that the teachers use. But we will stop at that, okay? Because questioning actually is a very important sorry. Let me open the materials. Okay. You need to give me a second. Okay. I'm sharing there. Now, we are talking about teaching techniques now. Today, our lecture is on teaching techniques. You can see the PowerPoint I'm sharing. First, we will take up questioning as a teaching technique. Questioning as a teaching technique. Now, I will actually show you a quote from Agrawal, Indian educationist. Can you see the quote?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. To question well is to teach well. To question well is to teach well. What does it mean? That was 1996. Agrawal is an Indian educationist who has done a lot of actually research on teachers' questioning technique. Teachers' use of questioning as a technique in the classroom, right? So, according to Agrawal, the Indian educationist, to question well is to teach well. So if you actually are to say the same thing in some other words, if you are a very good teacher, you are very good at using the technique of questioning in the class. So teaching and questioning, they are two sides of the same coin, right? Teaching and questioning are two sides of the same coin. So any teacher who wants to actually be very effective in the learning teaching process should master the art of using questioning as a technique in the classroom. Get my point?
Yeah.
Yeah. So now we look at what we are going to actually talk about under questioning as a teaching technique. We will talk about categories of questioning. Categories of questioning. That is also based on Agrawal's research. Okay. Strategies of questioning. Right? Strategies of questioning. How to use questioning effectively. Types of questions that the teacher can ask. Levels of questioning and designs of question. Okay, so we are going to discuss questioning as a teaching technique used by the teachers under 5 subtopics: categories of questioning, strategies of questioning, types of questions, levels of questioning, and designs of question. Right. So let's see the first one. Categories of questioning. Categories of question. So Agrawal, uh, in his research study, as findings of a research that he has done about teachers questioning, identifies 4 categories of questioning. Now, in a way that you can use the term users of questioning, right? Why do the teachers use questioning? So for what purpose that the teachers use questioning during a lesson? He terms it as categories of questioning. So he identifies 4 categories. Can one of you read the 4 categories here?
Questions to begin the lesson,
Yeah,
questions to develop the lesson, questions for recalling, questions for assessing.
very good. Now, thank you very much for reading it nicely. And according to Agrawal, the teachers use questioning as a technique for these 4 purposes. And he actually terms it as categories of questioning, right? So questions to begin the lesson. Questions to begin the lesson. That means teachers ask questions to begin the lesson. When they want to actually do a lesson at the outset itself, teachers ask questions. That is one category. So questions to begin the lesson. What can be the purposes of asking or using questioning as a technique at the beginning of the lesson? එක තව ටිකක් elaborate කරුවොත් මොනවටද questions to begin the lesson? What purposes do they serve?
To set the scene, to get the students to guess the topic.
Very good. That is very good. So to set the scene and to introduce the topic to the students, it may be guess the topic, it may be kind of introduce the topic by you, whatever. Actually, as you said, setting the scene, right? That is introducing the topic. Very good. What else?
Brainstorming questions.
Speak up, Puta. You're not loud enough. Yes. Say it again. Hello, you said something, no?
And pause the think.
Brainstorming questions.
Brainstorming questions. That means to brainstorm, right?
Yeah,
Questions
to
to
encourage
begin
the
the lesson,
students.
to brainstorm what they already know, right? Then you want to actually brainstorm and see what they already know about the topic. Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah. And in some other words, you can say recall prior knowledge.
Yeah, revise the previous lessons. That means-
Yeah. Now, previous lessons which are connected to the today's lesson. Am I right?
Yes, yes.
So prior knowledge, to recall prior knowledge, to arouse curiosity. Am I right? To arouse
Yeah.
curiosity, uh, to present the topic, to introduce the topic, to arouse their curiosity, to recall what they already know through brainstorming, and then recalling prior knowledge. For all these purposes, that you can actually ask questions at the outset of the lesson to begin the lesson. And according to Agrawal, one of the categories is questions to begin the lesson, and it serves different purposes. We discussed that. Okay. Now according to Agrawal, the teachers use another category of questioning, that is questions to develop the lesson. What is meant by questions to develop the lesson? Those
Key areas of the lesson?
definitely yes. That is it. Key areas of the lesson, that important parts of the lesson. Teacher asks questions on the important parts of the lesson. So then the step-by-step development of the lesson. So when do we ask this type of questions? Throughout the lesson. Throughout the lesson. So when it comes to important parts of the lesson, the teacher asks questions to develop the lesson. So it happens throughout the lesson, during the lesson. Okay. Now, questions to begin the lesson at the beginning of the lesson. Questions to develop the lesson during the lesson. That is on the key areas of the lesson. You cleverly answered that question. Right. Then, according to Agrawal, teachers ask questions for recalling. What is meant by recalling?
To check whether the students can recall or remember.
Definitely, yes. Checking their memory, whether they have understood, whether they have actually remembered, whether they remember. To check that, teachers ask questions for recalling. That is one part of the lesson done. Then you move on to the second. So you can ask questions from the first part to recall that knowledge and then move on to the second part. Very good. That is actually to see whether they remember, okay, whether they recall, whether they have understood. That is also during the lesson. So questions for assessing, that is another category. What is meant by questions for assessing? You are very clever. Questions for assessing.
After the completion of lesson, to know whether they have understood well the
Yeah.
lesson.
Yeah, you're correct, but not 100%. That is to test their understanding, whether they have understood it or not. So each and every lesson, you have to actually assess whether they have learned it or not. That is teaching. Okay, it's a part of teaching. But it is not only at the end of the lesson. That is mistaken. Throughout the lesson, you do that. Am I right?
Yeah, ma'am. Yeah.
Yeah. You don't have to say it's at the end of the lesson only that you ask questions for assessing. It's a misunderstanding. Normally, the teachers assess their students' learning all throughout the lesson. Okay, so that part is actually wrong. The other part is correct. So, according to Agrawal, the categories of questioning, in some other words, what are the uses of questioning, and or why do teachers utilize questioning? That is at 4 levels. Questions to begin the lesson, that is, at the outset, they ask questions to introduce the topic, to recall prior knowledge, to motivate and arouse curiosity. And questions to develop the lesson during the lesson from part to part, right? The lesson is actually put into parts, and then from part to part on the main areas of the lesson. Questions for recalling. Time to time, the teacher asks questions to recall or to check whether they remember, they have understood what they have learned. So questions for assessing, that is also during the course of the lesson. That is to check whether they have understood or they have learned it or not. They have learned it or not. So these are the 4 categories of questioning according to Agrawal. We'll come to the next one. Okay, next one. Strategies for questioning. What is it? Strategies for questioning. Now, strategies for questioning, there are 5 main strategies of questioning. If a teacher is supposed to ask a lot of questions in the class, questioning is part of teaching, according to Agrawal. Then how does the teacher use, right? Questioning as a strategy in a very effective way. Questioning as a technique in an effective way. So literature identifies 5 strategies of questioning, right? If not, questioning as a technique used in an effective way, there are 5 ways. So what are the 5 ways? Can you read?
Wait time,
equitable
equitable
distribution,
frequency, repetition, probing.
probing. So those are the 5 strategies of question. So now let's look at the first one, wait time. Now this is, you have to make notes. I don't have notes here. So you have the recording as well. Now wait time is, now teachers ask questions from the students, but students need time to form the answer, right? Students, learners, they need time to form the answer, organize the answer. But hardly teachers actually wait till the learner forms the answer in the mind, organizes the answer in the mind. Instead, teacher asks questions and teacher herself gives the answer without giving wait time, because the student need to, maybe student knows the answer, but the student needs time to organize it, form it. But the teachers hardly give this wait time. So instead, teacher goes to another student or teacher herself gives the answer without actually giving a wait time. So if you don't give a wait time, it's not proper questioning. So giving wait time is a strategy of questioning. It's actually using the questioning technique in an effective way. You get my point?
Yeah.
Is it true or it's not true?
It's
Do
true.
teachers give enough time for the students to, that is also the teachers have lot to cover. The teachers have 40 students in the class. Teacher knows that the child needs time, but it hardly happens because due to other reasons. Am I right?
Yeah, ma'am, exactly.
Yeah, that is true. But if you want to use questioning effectively, this is one of the strategies, giving wait time, right? Be mindful about it. So we'll go to the second one, equitable distribution. Can you have an educated guess there? What is understood by equitable distribution of question?
The questions must be asked from all the students in the sense to
Uh-huh.
cover all the levels of the students
Uh-huh.
from the front
Uh,
desk and the backward
yeah,
students.
you're clever. If you can actually give your first name when you're answering, you don't have to say, my name is blah, blah, blah. You can say Sandini. And the answer,
Buddhika,
it's
ma'am.
really good. Buddhika. Very good, Buddhika. It's a very intelligent, buddhimat answer from Buddhika, right? Yes. Equitable distribution is that you have to now, it's a challenge. Now you have 45 students, 50 students in a class. How many students in one of your classes? Tell me, one of you. How many in your class? One of you? Hello? I asked you a question. I just asked a question. A simple
32
question.
students, ma'am.
Yeah, 32. So you're having 32 in the class. So you can see how on earth that you can manage to ask questions from all the 32 in 40 minutes. That is impossible. That is the challenge that the teacher faces. But it's a must. If you want to use the technique of questioning in a very strategically or effectively, you have to make sure that questions are equally distributed among the students. So for that, literature says that the teacher can be very thoughtful about it. She can have a plan. She can actually do it using some other strategies. One thing is, now most of the time what happens, as teacher finds it easy, yeah, those who raise their hands, those who are good, those who are clever, always those who answer, they are only getting the questions. And those who never answer, they are never asked the questions also. Because its teacher is also facing a lot of challenges like time restrictions and all that. Okay, but it's not right. It has to be stopped if it is the effective use of questioning as a technique. So how can you actually promote this equitable distribution then? One thing, they say popsicle sticks technique. What is popsicle sticks now? You have 32 in the class. You have 32 popsicle sticks and all the names are written on it. So A, B, C, D, all the names are there on it. So you will always have it on the table. So when you raise a question, you take a popsicle stick and then call the name. Then the students are actually kept on alert. Otherwise, students know our teacher never asks questions from me. I don't have to listen. Right? And I actually, as a student, I can remember I badly wanted my teacher to ask me questions, but it never came to me. So I was angry with the teacher then. But for some reason, she never asked questions from me. Right? When I was schooling, I still remember that teacher and the class and everything. So I knew that teacher is not actually, I thought that she's callous towards me. So I actually started losing my interest in the subject. And I didn't want to listen because I was not motivated. I was idling because I knew that she's not going to ask questions from me. So you don't have to make that happen in the class. So for that, you have popsicle sticks with the names of your students on it. So students know anytime that the teacher might take one and call my name. So they are kept alert, right? They are kept alert. And uh, today I'm actually having sore throat and running nose and all that. Sorry. Then the students are alert because anytime my name can be picked. So it's very good, effective way of using questioning as a strategy. That is one thing. Another thing is another way of doing it. Now it's a 32. Now, if it is 32 or more than that in a class, So how on earth that you can manage to ask questions from everyone? No. So you can mentally divide your class into 6 segments or 4 segments like that. Then the left and the right, and the left back, left middle, and left front. Right back, right middle, right front. So when you ask questions, you pick one from one segment, right? From left front, left middle, left back, right middle, right. So at least there is some sort of equitable distribution. Otherwise, you are tend to be all human beings. Those who know the answer all the time, the good ones raising their hands and giving the answers, and they are only responding to you. The others are neglected, ignored. That cannot, you can't do that in the class. So make sure that as much as possible that you try to actually distribute the questions equitably among the students. You rightly said, very good, as Buddhika said. Now the third one, frequency. Have a wild guess, what is frequency?
Buddhika, how often the teacher asks questions? How often she
Very
asks
good, very
questions?
good, very good. Have you done this before anywhere?
No, ma'am. I just
Ah,
read the word and told.
yeah, very good. That is shows your interest. You're on alert as well. That is what some teachers hardly ask questions. They just actually write something on the board, get the students to take down notes, and then go and check their answers. No questions at all. But how frequently that the teacher asks questions, very important. Not once in blue moon that the teacher can ask questions from the students. Instead, teacher has to have the habit of asking questions very often, right? Anyway, there are 4 categories at the beginning, during the course of the lesson, that is to develop the lesson, that is to recall, that is for recalling, and that is for assessing. So you need to ask a lot of questions. So how frequently, how often that the teacher asks questions is very important. Once in blue moon, 1 or 2 questions will not be an effective way of using questioning as a technique in the class. So Buddhika actually answered that question very well. Okay. Now the next one, repetition. What does it mean by repetition? Repetition. Repetition.
Asking questions again and again.
Yeah. Now, what kind of questions that you ask? What is your name, dear?
Halima.
Alima. Right. Alima, now you're correct. Asking questions, the same question over and over. So
Yeah.
what kind of questions should be repeated then? The questions on the main points of the lesson. What is it?
Main points.
Then if you're using questioning as a strategy in the classroom or technique in the classroom, make sure that you ask questions repeatedly, or the questions on main areas are repeatedly asked. Then students will not miss the important points of the lesson. So the development of the lesson will be very easy then. So on the main points of the lesson, teacher can ask questions several times, not only once, on the main parts of the lesson, right? Then actually the students will not miss the important parts of the lesson. So the development of the lesson will be very easy. Very good. That was Amima. Then the last type, probing questions. What is meant by probing questions?
Probing means to clarify the students whether they are doing the correct thing.
Can you explain it further? I forgot your name. It is
Shafiq.
Shafi. Yes, Shafi. Can you explain it again?
We give certain tasks for the students. In a group they are working. We go visit each and every group to see whether they are doing the correct thing, what we have asked them to do. And while they are doing a wrong thing, teacher asks a question whether we are doing this one or that one, like that, asking some
Yeah,
questions.
Shafiq. The last part of your answer is the proper answer. Last part of your answer is the proper answer. Okay?
Yes.
Probing questions means that is very good, Shafiq. What you said lately is the correct answer. That is, when you actually get the students to answer a question or to do an activity, sometimes they are stuck. So you want to actually help them, guide them. So you're not supposed to go and explain everything because they are stuck. They need clarification. But that is not how you're doing it. As Shafiq said, you ask questions to guide them towards the correct answer. You ask questions to guide them towards the correct answer instead of giving the correct answer by the teacher herself when they are stuck. Now, what we do is we give the correct answer. Am I right?
Yeah.
That is easy way out, but that is not the way. You can use questioning to guide the student towards the correct answer without you giving the correct answer to the student, you giving the explanation to the student. You can actually ask a series of questions, right? Step by step questions to guide the students towards the correct answer. Shall we think of an example of a probing question? Now, you might ask a student, right? You might ask a student, uh, you might ask a student, what are the uses of simple present tense? What are the functions of simple present tense, right? Then the student might wrongly said to talk about what is happening right now. Then what does the teacher do? That is wrong. It's not to talk about what is happening now. Instead, rather, it's to actually talk about day-to-day activities and habits and general truths and time schedules and all that teacher goes on telling. Rather, without teacher telling the students the answer, you can ask guiding questions from the students. Now you can tell, right? Rather, listen to this. I use simple present tense here. I get up at 5 every morning and I leave home for school by 7 every day. I go to church on Sundays. What's the function? Can the students answer the question now? Can the students answer the question now? Yeah, for daily routine. Am I right?
Yes, they will
Yeah,
come to know that
yeah, yes.
habitual
And then
action.
again that you can tell, I will give you another function, right? Water boils at 100 whatever, and dogs bark, flowers bloom and wither. That is also another function of simple present tense. What is it? Like that, you are asking, actually guiding them towards the correct answer through probing questions. Not only, actually, more than in English, you can use it in other uh, areas as well, according to your subject. But what happens is, when the students are stuck, when the students go wrong, when the students actually needs clarification, teacher starts explaining it by herself. But don't do that. Instead, you have a technique at your hands that is questioning. Ask probing questions and guide the learner towards the correct answer and the proper understanding. Okay, you got it? You got it? Yeah. So these are the 5 strategies of questioning. That is asking questions to maximize the use of questioning. To make the questioning very effective in the class, you have to give wait time. You have to make sure that they are equitably distributed. You have to ask questions very often or frequently. You have to ask questions. You have to repeat the questions if they are on the main areas of the lesson. And teacher has to actually guide the learner towards the proper understanding, not by giving explanations by the teacher herself instead by asking probing questions. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Now, if I ask you at the examination, write an essay on questioning as a teaching technique, you can talk about categories of questioning. You can talk about strategies of questioning. I will not ask you, you have to incorporate this because under that topic, I'm discussing them. As I showed you categories of questioning, strategies of questioning, types of questions, levels of questioning, designs of questioning. So you have to talk about all these things if it's an essay question on questioning as a technique in the classroom. Okay. Now we have covered 2 subtopics. Now we come to Socrates. This is an example of probing questions. This is an example of probing questions. Actually, you all have heard of greatest philosopher, Socrates, right? And he actually was against the existing education system. And the scholars actually explaining everything on their own to the public without actually developing critical thinking of the public, right? Those days, it's not the typical school system. There were scholars, they actually came to public places and they went on talking, explaining everything to the common man. But Socrates thought it's very wrong, right? Follower of Plato. Socrates thought it's very wrong. This does not develop the critical thinking of the common man. So he actually introduced this probing question system that is guiding the individual towards the proper understanding through a series of questions asked. Normally, you see these professors and all that, university professors, we actually think that they are the actually veterans, right? They have actually pursued their studies, and at the same time, they have done a lot of contributions to the subject, so they're veterans in the subject. So these professors actually, they never answer a question. No. You will never get an answer. You will never get things explained by professors. Instead, what they do, they ask another question from you. And sometimes you get fed up also because it's difficult. You wanted the explanation, but they never explain. Instead, they ask another question from you to guide you in thinking, right? That is their mindset. So here, simplified Socrates, that is for probing questions. Can you tell me more about that? What makes you say that? What did you mean by it? Can you give me an example? Are you saying this or that? Can you say that a different way? Please explain why and how. Have you thought about it? Like that, you go on asking questions about the topic and you never explain anything. Okay? Get them to think. You develop one's critical thinking ability. So in the 21st century, education. What are the 4 C's of education? What are the 4 C's of education?
Communication,
Yeah,
collaboration, critical thinking,
yeah.
and
Creativity.
creativity.
So nothing will happen if you don't actually do this. If you are to explain everything to them and keep quiet and the students are dumb and you are spoon feeding them, they will not develop their critical thinking, they will not develop their creativity, they will not develop their communication as well, because when you ask questions, they have to actually respond to you, right? So communication is promoted. So that is how the 21st century teacher should work in the class. Not to go and explain everything. Now, this is adult class. We cover a large, vast area. This is different from classroom teaching. Okay. So instead, that the teacher has to actually have a plans lessons accordingly that the students discovers. So discovery process is facilitated through probing questions as well. right? They are guided towards the correct understanding through probing questions. So very important. Socrates belongs to actually early 19th century, but still they are being practiced. Nah? Right. Actually, it's Plato and Socrates who talk about critical thinking development. They're still on in vogue. Right. Now come to types of questions and examples. It's not very important, but I have put for your reference. It's not you. I don't want you to study this as well. Questions that require clarification. Why did you say that? What does that mean? How does this relate to your earlier statement? Probing assumptions. Can that statement be validated? How can you prove it? Right? Like that. What makes you to think like that? Get a lot of questions, but this is not actually necessary. Okay. Now we come to the next topic. Types of questions. Types of questions. Okay. Types of questions. We are going to look at one classification on types of question. The questions that you ask can be put into two types, two baskets. The teachers can ask close-ended questions. Teachers can ask open-ended questions. You know what close-ended, what open-ended means. What is close-ended, what is open-ended? I will give you two examples. Have you had your breakfast? What did you have for your breakfast? One is close-ended, one is open-ended. What is
Yes
it?
or no?
Yeah, definitely yes.
Close-ended.
Yeah, yes, no answer. If you actually ask questions to get the answer, yes or no, they are close-ended questions. But if you ask WH questions, right, why, where, when, how, and all that, they are open-ended. So if you really want your students to be actively involved in this learning process, you should ask more close-ended or more open-ended.
Open-ended.
Definitely, yes. Actually, close-ended questions are of very limited use. But according to Agrawal, when he actually observed the lessons of the teachers on questioning strategy, it is noted, it is actually found that teachers actually ask lots of close-ended questions, which is of no use or value. Instead, the teacher should get into the habit of asking open-ended questions, WH questions, to generate more answers from the students. That is one type, close-ended and open-ended. But there is another classification by Blosser 1995. Blosser identified different types of questions that the teachers can ask in the questions. How many types that he talks about? 5 types. Rhetoric questions, managerial questions, probing questions, contextual questions, and inferencing questions. So Blosser identifies 5 types of questions that the teachers can use in the classroom. That open-ended and close-ended is one classification. Blossers is another classification. There are 5 types: rhetoric, managerial, probing, contextual, and inferencing. What is rhetoric questions? What is rhetoric? What is rhetoric? What is rhetoric question? Yes. What is rhetoric questions? I will give an example, right? You have learned about Socrates, haven't you? And you don't wait for the answer. I really don't want you to tell me whether you have learned or you have not learned about Socrates. Instead, to actually get your attention to the term Socrates, that I'm going to talk to you about Socrates, I actually asked you that question, which I don't expect an answer. But because of that I asked you that question, you have learned about Socrates, haven't you? Now you're focusing on Socrates. So you know now we are going to talk about Socrates. So because of that, I ask rhetoric questions. I don't want you to actually, I don't expect an answer to it. They are rhetoric questions, and teachers can use rhetoric questions in the classroom to get the attention of the students on important points, areas. Got it?
Yes.
Understood, right? Any questions, please? Only 2 are responding. There are 20. Ernest Ratnayaka, Dhananjana, Halima, Ayodhya, Buddhika, of course, responds. Rukaya,
Yes, ma'am.
yeah, Nadika, why are not responding me? Right. Did you get what it means by rhetoric questions? Yeah.
Yes,
Do
ma'am.
you use rhetoric questions in the class? Are you in the habit of using that?
Yes.
Yeah. Now, when you're doing a presentation also, when you're moving from one subtopic to another subtopic, you
When
can
we make
actually
a
ask a
speech,
rhetoric question, right?
when
You
we
don't
make a speech also.
Yeah, definitely. That is to actually draw the attention only. You don't expect an answer. Very good. So I see, it seems that Rafiq is good at asking rhetoric questions in the class. Okay. So the next one, managerial questions. Managerial questions by the teacher to manage the classroom. What is meant by manage the classroom? Giving instructions to the activities, to actually maintain the proper behavior, to start the lesson, to get the students to be seated, to get the students to get into groups, and all that. The teacher asks questions for the purpose of classroom management. The questions that the teachers ask for the purpose of classroom management. Have you done your homework today? Why didn't you do your homework today? Like that, the teachers ask questions not only for the purpose of actually learning and teaching, but for the classroom management. That is also another type that the teachers use. Probing questions. I told you, we discussed that. Probing questions are asked to guide the learner towards the better understanding without teacher explaining everything, right? Through the probing questions, you are guiding them towards discovery learning. Probing questions you use to guide them towards discovery learning. Teacher spoon feed karan නැතිව. So if you are a 21st century who believes in student-centered education, constructivism, definitely you have to master the art of asking probing questions. Okay? Right. Contextual questions and inferencing questions. We can take the two together and discuss. Contextual questions and inferencing questions. Contextual questions means cut and paste answers. There are cut and paste answers directly from what they listen to, what they read, and all that. Directly from what they read, what they listen to, right? For example, you actually talk about Sigiriya, and then you ask questions: where is it situated? Who built it? During what period was it built? What are the special features? Because in the reading passage, it's there in the history lesson. Cut and paste. Contextual questions. That is also important because they should know information. But the teacher can go beyond contextual questions all the time and ask inferencing questions. Inferencing questions means they are not directly given. They are not directly told to the students. They are not directly given. Instead, they have to put two and two together and infer the meaning of the answer. I will take an example from literature. Now, it's a poem about a scarecrow, right? I have actually read that nice poem about scarecrow. So this scarecrow is actually weak, old, but it's not directly told that the scarecrow is weak and old, right? Instead, it is said he is in ragged clothes, torn trousers, shirt is unbuttoned, and his one peg foot is in the grave, and he is actually having a stick in his hand to actually balance his body. So reading all these things, the learner derives or infer the meaning. This is about a poor man. This is about an old man. This is about a weak man. They are not directly told. Got it? Got it?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yeah. So
Yes,
most of the time in language class, in literature class, in art class, now science is actually very factual, but there
And
are actually, yes, there are other areas that you can actually get them to go beyond what is actually directly said. That is inferencing. And it's very important for the development of critical thinking and creativity. Okay, inferencing. Am I right, Shafi?
yes, like creative writing also, madam.
Yeah, definitely yes. So inferencing is very important. Okay, especially in language, literature, art, even in Apihitamu religious knowledge. You give them a story, that there are stories now Bible stories are there, Jataka stories are there. I do not know Islam. You might also be having some stories like. So you ask them what message is given there, what is told here, why we should do like that. So they have to go beyond actually what is said directly. And you can ask them now, even in a science class, it's about global warming, right? It's about global warming. So cut and paste scientific factual facts are there. This is why the global warming has happened. This is how that we can actually minimize it, reduce it. They are all factual, but you can go beyond and ask, right? You can go beyond and ask, if we are to continue like this, what will happen to humankind? So they actually will think about the everyday situation. They add some emotions to it, and they will actually think beyond the scientific facts and develop their attitude towards protecting environment. So that is possible in factual scientific subjects as well, right? Anyway, inferencing questions are also very important for the development of critical thinking and creativity. Contextual questions are cut and paste. What is said here, you are checking their understanding and you want them to know it. So according to Blosser's classification, there are 5 types. Rhetoric, to get the attention. You don't expect the answer, right? Managerial, that is to manage classroom management purpose. Probing questions, to guide the learner towards discovery learning without teachers flatly giving it. Contextual cut and paste questions and inferencing, it's not directly given, but they have to put 2 and 2 together and infer the meaning. So these 5 types of questions are very common in the class. If the teacher is to make use of questioning as a technique effectively. There are 5 types. Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
ma'am.
Now these are for exam purpose now. But when you are in the discussion, when you listen, so next time when you walk into the class, when you ask questions, you will have a plan to ask questions as well. Am I right? I don't say that overnight that you will be transformed into a very effective teacher in questioning. No, but you will try it. Am I right? You will do it with understanding. Am I right?
Yes, ma'am.
That is what is expected from you, right? That is what is expected from you. Maybe that you ask a lot of questions. Maybe you ask the right type of questions also, but maybe with not much thinking. Now hereafter, you will actually, when you plan your lessons also, you will think of what are the types of questions that I'm going to ask, as a which category and all that. So how to actually make it maximize through wait time. All these things should come to your mind, because you're not just to forget it after your exams. This is only for exam purpose. That kind of attitude, not that the teacher needs. Okay, right. So we'll come to the next one. Levels of questioning. Levels of questioning. When it comes to levels of questioning, we can look at Costa's house. Costa's house. Levels of questioning. It is somewhat similar to the types of questions, but exactly not types of questions as well. We can ask questions at 3 levels. 3 levels of difficulty, 3 levels of understanding. Otherwise, 3 levels of understanding according to levels of questioning, according to Costa's house. We can actually ask questions at 3 levels of understanding. The first level, lowest level, gathering. Middle level, processing. Highest level, applying. Okay. Lowest level, the first level, gathering. Second level, processing. And the highest level is applying. What does it mean by gathering? They are just cut and paste. You collect information from what you hear, what you read. Cut and paste directly from the text. Directly from the text. Okay. So complete, describe, match, recite, count, identify, name, select, define, list, observe, scan. So they are directly from the text, cut and paste. Okay. That is gathering. Processing. That is inferencing level. That is, you put 2 and 2 together and form an answer. Put 2 and 2 together and form an answer. Infer, then hypothesize, compare, contrast, analyze, give reasons, classify. All these things happen at processing levels. That is like inferencing. That is, not directly what is stated. Instead, they can put 2 and 2 together and compare and contrast and see. Now, for example, it's a reading passage about television, whether it's a boon or a bane, right? It's a boon or a bane, good or bad. Then after getting the students to read it, you will ask, right, for you, whether it's a boon or a bane. So the students will compare, right? They will see what are the good in it, what are the bad in it, which is more good or bad of TV. And that is actually the middle level processing levels. So they put 2 and 2 together and goes beyond what is exactly said. Then what is applying level is the highest level, that the students' ability to apply what they learned into everyday life, real life situations, and making is personalized, and social issues are commented, and social issues are seen through what is learned. They give their own interpretations and all that. It's a judgment, right? It's a judgment. And based on what is read, they can actually predict, forecast. So what will happen next and all that. They can say whether this is good or bad, this is agreeable or not agreeable. Like that, they are going beyond the text and they apply it into everyday life, into social issues, and they actually pass judgments. That is actually the highest level applying. So when you use questioning in the classroom, most of the time they are limited to lowest level gathering. And maybe 50% of your questioning refers to the mid-level processing, but hardly that you think of going beyond it and getting them to apply what they learn into their everyday life, real life situations, and personalized and social context, put them into social context. You hardly ask questions, right? So that, but you have to remember, if you are using questioning at different levels, it's not limited to gathering, there is processing and applying. So if it is a very young class, you don't have to go for applying. But if it is a mature class, you have to actually go for applying as well. Okay,
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
ma'am.
Yeah, very good. So now I want to tell you something else. I did not cover one thing, that is designs of questioning, because questioning is that important. Questioning is teaching, actually speaking, according to Agrawal. If you don't question, you're not teaching. So because of that, questioning has a big role to play. Some say it's the hackneyed technique in the classroom. Hackneyed කියන්නේ මොකද්ද? ඕනාවට වැඩිය පාවිච්චි කරලා, right? Overused. But still, there's no boundary to its utility value as well. So what are designs of questioning? Let me open my note on designs of questioning, right? Okay. They are taken from designs of questioning. No match. Okay. Give me a second. I'm locating my, give me a second. Now you understand the importance of questioning, no?
Yes, madam.
Hereafter, you are going to be mindful and these recent ones only. Right. Let me locate it from my Gmail.
Designs in the sense mean, madam, setting
Yeah.
the paper, something like that, or
What is it?
setting a paper for a certain grade.
I didn't get you, Putta.
No, madam, I am asking designing questions mean.
No, not that. It's a different one. We are using this as a classroom oral questions,
Okay, madam.
right? Setting questions papers, they are covered in assessment, measurement, and evaluation module. Okay.
Okay.
This is different. To do the lesson, teachers asking questions from the student. You get that? Setting question papers and all that, they come in measurement and evaluation paper. Okay, module.
Okay.
Right. It's a different one you're referring to. Give me a second, Puta, because two-step verification. I want to locate it because otherwise I just go on talking, Miss. Give me a second. It is designs of question. Okay. Let's see whether I can look it. Otherwise, I will actually just go on. I think it's not there, Kiara. Designs of questions. It's no, dear. I really don't. I can't waste time in locating it. Give me 1 minute, okay? No, dear, I can't locate. It's all right. I will talk about it. I'm very sorry for wasting time also trying to locate it. You can make notes, right? They are not in a big way that we discuss. Some question designs, designs of questioning. This is from a research paper, somebody who has actually done a lot of research on how to make use of this questioning very effectively, talks about some questions designs. One, hot seat. The first hot seat. Right. What is meant by hot seat? Now you know on TV that you can be a millionaire or billionaire on Sirasa.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, that is hot seat. That is, you ask them a question and the fastest answer, if not the best answer, they come to the hot seat. And the rest of the class can ask questions from the student. So the teacher is not, because why do we need question designs? Because it's actually used almost every day. It is the most hackneyed technique. Almost every day teachers ask questions. If it is the same way that the teachers use questioning as a technique in the class, it will lose its kind of a sense. It will lose its value. Because of that, you need to actually use variety of ways of using this questioning in the classroom, right? It's not only the teacher asking questions also now. Right now in the student-centered classroom, teachers train the peers also to ask questions. For that, teacher has to guide. You can't just ask them to ask questions which are not useful, which are not purposeful. Instead, you're guiding them, right? You can actually, initially, you can give them a set of questions. And later on, you can ask them, develop your own questions and send it to me. I will mark it and give it back to you. And you can put the class into groups and get them to actually ask questions from each other. So one is getting them to the hot seat. So the fastest or the most accurate one comes to the hot seat and the rest of the class asking questions. So students are also asking questions, very effective, but you have to guide them. Just for the sake of asking questions, you can't. Initially, if they're very young, the teacher provides a set of questions to the students. If not, you, the teacher, actually get them to develop questions and you go through them and correct the questions and give them back. And later on, when they mature, they will actually develop the art of actually asking questions, right? Okay. That is hot seat. One thing is hot seat. The other one is invisible cloak. In that research paper, right? Some designs. Invisible cloak. Invisible cloak means that you get, as you are the best in the class, or as you are answer a question by the teacher, you become the magician in the class and you come in front of the class, and then you have the power to ask questions from the rest of the class. And eavesdropping. Eavesdropping is another technique. Eavesdropping means කියන්නේ හොරෙන් අහන් ඉන්නවා වගේ එකක් නේ. Right? හොරෙන් අහන් ඉන්නවා. So then actually you get the students to discuss. And then the other students actually walk around the class and eavesdrop. And then based on that, they can ask questions from each other. That is another design. And then in another lesson, actually, I have done maybe about 10-15 years ago also. When I teach my grade 10 and 11 students, I don't teach the lesson. Instead, I ask them to read and develop a set of questions. I actually monitor. I put them into groups. In their groups, they develop a set of questions. And they ask questions from each other. Once they answer the questions that is asked by other students, they understand what is this paragraph about and what is told there. So likewise, teachers have to use different designs, not the same way that the typical way the teacher only asking questions at the beginning during the lesson only for these purposes. Instead, as it's the most hackneyed technique, but high in its utility value, the teacher has to actually be very smart in using this questioning technique in the class. So for that, the teacher herself can actually design lots of questioning designs. Teacher can develop her own question designs to add variety to the classroom. The purpose is, as it's the most hackneyed, adding variety is a must. You can't say no to it because it's a part and parcel or the other side of the coin of teaching. You can't do teaching without asking questions. Got it? Got it? Right.
Yes, ma'am.
So I think this is very good question for your examination. Essay question. I will just ask questioning Gana. Then what you are supposed to talk about, you should know. You can talk about categories by Agrawal, categories of question. You can actually talk about strategies of questioning. There are 5 strategies we discussed. You can give classroom example where possible. Then you can talk about types of questions, open and close, and then glossars, right? Can you remember the glossars, the 5 types? Rhetoric, probing, managerial, contextual, and inferential. Am I right?
Yeah.
And then you can talk about levels of questioning by Costa, looking at the Costa's house of questioning, the 3 levels, right? And then, you know, you can talk about the importance of designing questions because it's hackneyed, used almost every day, but utility value is high. The teacher is actually, it's actually the other part and parcel of teaching. So variety should be added through the varied questions designs used by the teacher as the conclusion. So that is about questioning as a strategy. So we will now go to grouping as a strategy. Second one, strategy name classroom technique. Now we are in the second topic of classroom techniques, grouping. Grouping as a classroom technique. Right? Ready?
Yes,
Yes.
ready, madam.
Yeah, okay. Now you can make notes if you want. You can actually divide half a page into two. And there are two main types of grouping. How many types of grouping? Two
Two.
main types. Can you have a wild guess and tell me what are the two main types of grouping then? As teachers, you might be using this. Two main types of grouping. Can you? Two main types of grouping.
Teacher herself making the groups, or
Rather, it's like this. According to literature, there are two main types of grouping that the teacher can use in the class. One is same ability groups. You can write the title of the first column. Same ability groups. Same ability groups, another term is homogeneous groups.
homogeneous?
Homogeneous. H-O-M-O. Yeah,
Mixed
homo means
talented.
same. Right? Yeah, same ability. Now, in your class, you identify there are very good ones. There are average students. There are very weak ones. So you put all good ones into one, average into another group, and the weak ones into another group. Right? That is
Homogeneous.
one way. Homogeneous or same group, same ability level. So in the second column, you can write
Mixed talented.
heterogeneous. Yeah, heterogeneous or different ability groups.
What
Different
is that
ability
word,
groups.
madam?
Sorry,
What is that word?
heterogeneous.
HIT.
H-E-T-E, hetero, R-O-G-E-N-O-U-S.
Okay,
Heterogeneous.
good, thank you.
Heterogeneous, that is different ability groups. So teachers, now grouping is also, it happens almost every day. Because in the 21st century classroom, there are 4 C's: creativity, communication, critical thinking, and cooperation. So cooperation, discovery learning, now you have to actually get them to work in groups and pairs and share their knowledge and discover. On their own, they can't do. Ne? Because of that, grouping is also a very common technique that is used in classroom in the 21st century student-centered education. Because cooperation, giving them group work, pair work, to work in a group, share their knowledge and discover knowledge on their own. They can't do it individually. So because of that, in the 21st century student-centered classroom, grouping happens. Grouping is used as a technique almost every day. So you can't help it. You have to be good in grouping technique as a teacher. It is also a very common technique. So the literature identifies two main types: homogeneous, same ability groups; heterogeneous, different ability groups. Now, in different ability groups, there's a mix of very good ones, average, and the weak. So another group, very good ones, average, and the weak. They are all in one group. Why? Which is better? Your understanding, I'm asking. Heterogeneous or homogeneous?
Mixed
Heterogeneous.
talented is good.
Heterogeneous.
Right. You can't say this is good, this is bad. Both have its, both have its own good and bad. So you're going to, you should know what is good about homogeneous, what is good about heterogeneous, what is not good about homogeneous, what is not good about heterogeneous. And depending on the context, right? Depending on the context, you decide whether you're going to get to them to form same ability groups or different ability groups, because both have its good and bad, pros and cons, right? So no single type is all good. So then we have to know what is good about homogeneous, what is good about heterogeneous. So they are both discussed at the same time. If I talk about good about homogeneous, it is the bad about heterogeneous. Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah. So you have to be very careful in writing, making notes. Right. Let's take the homogeneous, same ability groups. Okay. So the teacher knows these are the very good uh, uh, students in the class, right? These are the average set. This is very weak set. Normally the teacher has an understanding. Teacher should have an understanding, definitely. So you decide whether you're going to use this or that. It doesn't, I'm not going to, but what are the, so when you actually put the same abilities into one group, what are the advantages? The teacher can spend more time with the weaker
With the
ones.
weaker,
Weaker ones. The teacher can actually spend more times with the weaker one. Right, one advantage. Another advantage is teacher can develop difficult, 3 different activities or 4 different activities to cater to their levels, to give everyone a sense of satisfaction. Now, if you give everyone the same questions, now suppose it's about reading passage, you give the same comprehension questions to everyone. So the very good ones, they will quickly answer. There's no challenge. They are bored thereafter. Average, they will take their own time and answer. Weak ones, they will struggle because they find it difficult. But if you have same ability grouping, so you can actually, based on the same reading passage, for the weakest group, you will actually give them MCQs only. They have to select the correct answer after reading the passage. For the average, you will ask them to write
simple answers.
short answers. Yeah, very good. Short answers. They can manage during the time. For the very good ones, sometimes they are bored. They finish it quickly and they actually wait. But you can give them some challenging questions, contextual
Inferential one.
and inferential as well. So you are catering to all the types and nobody is bored. Am I right? And everybody has a sense of satisfaction. Right?
Yes.
So even the weakest ones, they have read and understood, but at a different level. It's okay. That is how now reductionism, competency levels, that is what they talk about now. From at their own pace, they are developing. Otherwise, eternally, I can't, this is difficult, I'm unable to do. That is not there when you do like that. So it's another advantage. And another advantage may be the good ones will not dominate. When you actually put them into different ability groups, what happens? The good ones quickly do the activity and the others just idle. The good ones sometimes do not give any chance to the weaker ones because they are slow. These people are fast in doing that. Am I right? And they dominate. And that will not happen. Right? That will not happen. It's another advantage of same ability groups. What is the disadvantage? There is no opportunity for sharing knowledge. Am I right? And learning from each other. Am I right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, no opportunity for learning from each other. And the other one is teacher has to actually prepare several activities. It's tiring for the teacher. She has to actually develop different activities for the different ability groups. No, same ability groups at different levels. So that is the purpose of putting them into same ability. So definitely there will be several activities, different activities developed by the teacher. And the students will not actually learn to share and care for the, now if there's a very good one, he or she cares for the weaker ones, and if there's a weaker one, he or she respects and values the others help and all that. Some are very adamant. No, they don't want to actually get help from anyone. So their soft skills are not developed when they are in same ability groups. Okay. But it will give them a sense of satisfaction as well. Okay. No dominating by the good ones and all that. But if you take the different ability groups, the advantage is students can learn from each other. Students can learn to respect and helping others and all these soft skills,
Peer learning.
peer learning and all that. Very good. You're very good. That is a very good term there. Peer learning and all that. But the disadvantage, some good ones are dominating the uh, group work. And at the same time, they are bored because the others are very slow. So they are fed up of being in different ability groups because they are bored. They have to wait all the time. And then the weak ones, they might think, yo, I'm every day that I have to depend on others. My contributions are not valued and I'm unable. They are capable, but I'm not. Like that attitude is there. So you can see both have their own advantages and disadvantages. It's when you plan the lesson only you decide what type of grouping that you are going to use, and accordingly that you have to do your work as the part as the teacher. Am I right? Yes. Then that is enough for the grouping as a technique. Okay. Not every day that the same ability groups, not every day different ability groups. Instead, you decide today which is the best. You know its pros and cons, like that. Okay. We'll go to the third technique for the day. Take it down. Brainstorming as a technique. Brainstorming as a technique. Very important, because in the 21st century, student-centered classroom, learner is not an empty vessel. Learner is not an empty vessel. Instead, they have their prior knowledge. They have their prior knowledge. If they have their prior knowledge, prior knowledge of the world, knowledge of the subject, knowledge, experiences, they are all prior knowledge. So learners are not empty vessels, they have prior knowledge. Then you start the lesson with recalling prior knowledge. And to recall their prior knowledge, to get started with, brainstorming is very, very important technique. So in the student-centered classroom, brainstorming is a very important technique. Okay, because they're not empty vessels. They know they have their prior knowledge. You get them to brainstorm it. So after brainstorming it, they can make use of that knowledge to actually learn new knowledge. So it's a very common technique in the 21st century student-centered classroom. Okay. Right. What is this brainstorming then? Can you define? Can you explain? What is this brainstorm? Just as you understand.
Recalling questions.
You get them to recall their prior knowledge. Okay. Right. Now, when you actually do brainstorming, give me a second. When you actually do brainstorming, you have to actually follow some rules. You have to follow some rules. What are the rules that you have to follow when you do brainstorming, when you use brainstorming as a technique? What are the rules? Can you just tell me? What are the rules that you have to follow? What are the procedure? Rather, rules, procedure. Just have a kind of small discussion on that. You may not be thorough with what I'm going to asking, but you can actually Think and answer. If you're conducting a brainstorming session in the class, what are the procedures that you have to follow?
Starting from yes, no question.
Or rather, no. Yes, no questions are useless in brainstorming.
Practical activities with the lesson, with relevant to the lesson.
No, we will do like this. When you want to do a brainstorming, you can have it as a whole class. Teacher in front, the whole class is there. So it's a large group. Or you can put them into small groups. So brainstorming can be conducted as a whole class activity or a group activity, right? Okay. So you want the students to focus on a topic and contribute to the free flow of ideas. What is it? Free flow of ideas. That is very important. You have to keep that in mind. Free flow of ideas. So without any monitoring, without any thinking about whether this is right or wrong, whatever comes to their mind about the topic, it should freely flow, right? It should flow freely. So that is brainstorming. You're not going to say you're right, you're wrong, your grammar is wrong, your language is wrong, your vocabulary is wrong, nothing like that. You give them a topic and get them to actually brainstorm. That means talk about it without any censoring. Free flow of ideas about it. Free flow of ideas about it. That is brainstorming. The teacher may begin a brainstorming session by posing a question or a problem or by introducing a topic. So the first thing that the teacher should do is to introduce the topic, right? Introduce the topic, right? Women should go out to work. Women should earn. It's a must in this world. Then whatever they think about it, whether this is right or wrong or not, thinking of nothing, that they actually go on talking or writing. If it is writing, actually you call them, hold the pen, without taking the pen off the paper, go on writing for 1 minute. Whatever comes to your mind, spellings, words, vocabulary, nothing matters. Just go on writing for 1 minute without taking the pen off the paper. That is brainstorming. And if it is talking without actually thinking whether this is right or wrong, whatever comes to their mind, they actually express. That is free flow of ideas, right? Free flow of ideas. So the teacher introduces the topic. Students then express possible answers, relevant words and ideas, what comes to their mind. Right or wrong is not a matter here. You're not inhibited. Think now. When you start thinking, this is right, this is wrong, what's the exact word? No brainstorming can happen. Okay, so because of that, you're not going to inhibit. Instead, it's a free flow of ideas. Okay, contributions are accepted without criticism or judgment. What they say is accepted, whether it's right or wrong, whether you agree or you do not agree. It doesn't matter. Apikina, feedback is withheld. Feedback is withheld. You're not going to give feedback, you're wrong, this is not right, and all that. Free flow of ideas. Okay, no inhibition. So, without criticism or judgment, the teacher or the scribe can put all these on the board. Write all what they say on the board, right? These ideas are then examined and usually in an open class discussion format. Then once the brainstorming is done only, the feedback to actually sort out what is relevant, what is irrelevant, what is yes, what is no is done. If you actually get them to think overthink about what they are going to tell, whether it's right, whether this is the exact word, whether is this like that, there is no free flow of ideas. It's not brainstorming. You get my point? Hello.
Yeah, ma'am. For
Yes,
example,
ma'am.
ma'am,
Yeah.
for example, when we are questioning the students, asking them what are the ways to increase the economic development, and each and every students will give the answers. No, so we will jot down all the answers on the whiteboard, and finally, we are going to do an open discussion within the classroom and finalize the correct answers. Is
That is it. During the normally a brainstorming has two parts. The first part is brainstorming. Then it's a free flow of ideas. They are not going to stop to think, right? But then after the brainstorming session, there should be the discussion. Discussion, there you sort it out. Relevant, irrelevant. Prioritize most important, least important, right? And then agreed, not agreed. Like that, feedback is given after the brainstorming only. During the brainstorming, feedback is withheld. ඒ කියන්නේ hold කරලා තියෙන්නේ. Feedback එකක් දෙන්නේ නැහැ. You get my point?
yeah, ma'am.
Yeah. What are the actually purposes of brainstorming? First one, get the focus students' attention on a particular topic. Next, generate a quantity of ideas. ගොඩාක් ideas එනවා. දැන් මේ නිදහසේ කියනවනේ හරිද වැරදිද හිතන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. එහෙම පන්ති කාමරයක් තමයි නිර්මාණය කරන්නේ. You have to actually get the students to actually give their ideas freely. Think without getting inhibited about on what is right, what is wrong, and all that. So it will generate quantity of ideas, lot of ideas. Teach acceptance and respect for individual differences. So you accept. අනේ මෝඩ කතා කිව්වත් ඒක accept කරනවා. මොකද පස්සේ හරි ගස්ස ගන්නකම්. So acceptance and respect for the individuals. It's a soft skill. Encourage learners to take risks in sharing their ideas and opinions. Now, if you practice this brainstorming in the class, even in workplaces, even in professional context and academic context, they will not be inhibited. Otherwise, අයියෝ මගේ එක හරිද දන්නේ නැහැ කියලා අත වෙවි ඉන්නවා. They are not actually trained in brainstorming and contributing. They actually are backward. That is shed if you actually encourage these brainstorming in the class. So students are made to feel you are accepted, you are valued, you have a contribution to make, you belong to this class, you have contributed in some way, right? So all these opportunities are there. It leads to the development of soft skills as well. It actually will generate lots of ideas. It will actually develop their communication skills. It will develop their soft skills of the 21st century as well. Okay. But common issues in brainstorming. Initially, some students may be very reluctant. They will not speak out at all, right? But when you practice it as a kind of everyday technique in the classroom, they will shed their inhibition and develop their abilities in kind of discussions in the open forums. So initially that it's a challenging thing. Some will not actually utter a single word. But when you actually make it a habit that you do it everyday basis, because it has its own advantages in the student-centered classroom, students will develop those abilities and shed their inhibition. In brainstorming, students actually develop their ability to listen and contribute and respect, express their ideas clearly, wait for their turn, accept others' views, etc. Okay. Effective brainstorming, how to conduct an effective brainstorming session. So in a small or large group, select a leader and a scribe. On this may be the teacher. Scribe කියන්නේ ලියන එක්කෙනා. Now you are conducting it in groups, you are conducting it as a large class. So you have to decide a leader. So the teacher doesn't appoint a leader. Instead, the emerging leader, if not, the group appoints a leader. And a scribe as well. Scribe කියලා කියන්නේ ලියා ගන්න එක්කෙනා මේ අදහස්. Define the problem or idea to be brainstormed. Then the teacher has to introduce the idea. Make sure everyone is clear on the topic being explored. හැමෝම දන්නවා දැන් ඒගොල්ලෝ brainstorm කරන්නේ මේ topic එක. It's very clear. And set up the rules for the session. What are the rules? Letting the leader have control. Allowing everyone to contribute. Suspending evaluation of ideas until all ideas are gathered. අපි කියනවා withhold feedback කියලා. Feedback is withheld. The validity of all contributions, whether it's right or wrong, it doesn't matter. All contributions are valid and respected. Recording each answer unless it is a repeat. Recording each and every response. If it is a repeat, you don't have to repeat. Setting a time limit and stopping when that time is up. ඒකත් හරි වැදගත්. When you are conducting a brainstorming session, your students should know how much time they have කියලා. Otherwise, අර බුද්ධි කලම්බනය brainstorming will not happen. They will actually start thinking slowly because they are not in a hurry. They can take any time and do that. Then brainstorming will not happen. You have to make it a very limited time. Maybe in 5 minutes. You have only 5 minutes. So then only their brain starts actually working very fast and getting them to brainstorm. So setting a time limit is very important. Otherwise, brainstorming will not happen. Is it clear to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So start the brainstorming, have the leader select members of the group to share their answers. The scribe should write down all responses, if possible, so that everyone can see them. Make sure not to evaluate or criticize any answers until the brainstorming is complete. Once you have finished brainstorming, go through the results and begin evaluating the responses. This can be done quickly by a show of hands to rank the ideas. That means after the brainstorming session, you have to lead a discussion, sort it out, relevant, irrelevant, the most important and the least important, right and wrong, etc. Okay, that is how a brainstorming is conducted. So the teacher should actually establish a warm and supportive environment. If students think your teacher is penalizing, teacher is arrogant, teacher is judging us, they will not actually freely talk. So warm and supportive environment, safe, sense of safety. Emphasize that a quantity rather than the quality of ideas is the goal. Hariyo වැරදි කියන එක quality, but that is not the goal in brainstorming, but amount of information, amount of ideas. So quality නෙමේ අපි මෙතනදී බලන්නේ quantity. So quantity over quality is important here during the brainstorming, right? Discourage, evaluate or critical comments from peers during the idea gathering phase. During brainstorming, no feedback. Encourage, provide opportunity for all students to participate. So you have to monitor, you have to encourage, make sure that everyone speaks. No one is left out. Initially, emphasize the importance of listening to express ideas and recording of the ideas. Then read each contribution to the group. So they will actually develop their soft skills, value the others' ideas, wait till your turn comes, and all that is developed in them. So this is about it. In summary, when you conduct a brainstorming, you have to first put them into group, then appoint a leader. If not, appoint a leader and a scribe. Then you have to introduce the topic, and the learner should be very clear about the topic that they are going to brainstorm about. And then Set a time limit. Otherwise, no brainstorming will happen. When you set them a limited time only, that their brainstorming happens, right? Otherwise, they will actually think very slowly and nothing much comes to their mind. And then no feedback is given during the brainstorming. And all the ideas are recorded unless it is a repeat. And then once the brainstorming is stopped, then the feedback session is conducted to sort the relevant, irrelevant, most important and least important and blah, blah, blah. Got it?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Now, I will not do that. Storytelling as a technique in the class and role play as a technique in the class. So, I want 2 of you or 4 of you to take storytelling as a technique and role play as a technique and talk about it next day for 2 minutes. Who are going to take up the challenge? I will send you reading material. Who is going to take up the challenge? Anybody to volunteer? When I send you the reading material, you can read it and come and talk about storytelling. Come and talk about role play as a technique. Who are
Madam,
ready
I
to
will,
do?
I
Madam,
will,
I
ma'am.
Yeah,
talk
can
about
you give me your name?
Buddhika.
Buddhika, what's your topic?
Storytelling.
Very good. Buddhika. Who else is going to talk about storytelling?
Shakira Nias, ma'am. I
Very
will also,
good. Storytelling. Who is
yes.
going to talk about role play as a technique? Yeah.
It's me, ma'am.
What's your name, dear?
Rukaya.
Rukaya. Okay. Then Shafi.
I would rather like storytelling.
Oh, storytelling is taken, no?
Then I will try it. Okay.
Yeah, you can take role play. Okay. And then I will give you 2 minutes maximum. So you are not wasting time. You are very well prepared. Without fillers or gaps, you're going to talk, 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 talk. And then we'll finish on techniques in the classroom. That is enough. There are other techniques also. We are not going to discuss everything. So next day when you come, it's about lesson planning and writing specific objectives of a lesson. මොනවද අපි කතා කරන්න යන්නේ? Lesson planning and writing specific objectives of a lesson. That is what we are going to do next time. That's it. Anything that you want to tell me? Any clarifications? Anything? Can I send you this week your written assignment? The written assignment will be on, I will give you 2 questions. You can select one and do. It's a very practical one. You have to actually discuss flipped method, how you are going to conduct it, what are the activities you are going to actually use. If not, jigsaw activity, what are the activities, how you are going to conduct it. A practical one. Can I set you the written assignment this week? මොකද කියන්නේ?
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yeah.
Should it be done like those students have done that? I mean, you show us some example sample
Yeah. The
activities
same
that day.
similar one. Yes. You have to
Okay,
select a
thanks.
lesson and you have to tell me how you are going to conduct it using the flipped method. What are the activities that you're sending them for lower order? You understand? I will give you clear instructions in the assignment. So you can read it. If you have doubts next week, you can check with me. Ne? Okay, then. Hey,
Okay, ma'am.
Terun. Yeah. So I will set it and send it to you. You will be getting 3 weeks anyway for the written assignment. So if you have doubts next week when you come, you can actually talk to me, right? So I have to send materials this time. I have to send you some reading materials on storytelling, role play, and I have to send you the written assignment. But I'm quite sure that I can do it only by Monday, okay? Not yes tomorrow. By tomorrow, tomorrow also I have lectures the whole day, so because of that I'm unable. By Monday I will be sending, okay?
Okay, ma'am.
So any questions, anything? Do you understand what we are discussing? Are you studying on regular basis?
Madam, please do share the PPT also, madam.
Okay, I will. I send you all the materials, don't you get?
We will receive in technology.
You have not received any of the materials?
Yes.
I will actually resend by
Okay.
Monday, okay? I will keep that in mind and do the needful by Monday.
Okay.
Right. I think we can stop for the day. It's 9:25 now. Only 5 more minutes. This time is for you to ask any questions. Any questions? No. මට නිකන් කියන්න බලන්න, are you studying on regular basis කියලා? No time කියන්න එපා. Why silent? You have not studying, you have not done anything at all. එහෙම කරන්න එපා. තේරුණා නේද? Take interest and do the work. Okay, then thank you very much.
Okay, madam. Good night.
Thank you,
Okay,
ma'am.
good night,
Good
every
night.
one of you.
Okay,
Good
thank
night.
you.
Bye bye. See you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.